Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world right now. Dear authors and invited guests, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 6th International Congress on Information and Communication Technology through Zoom on behalf of ICICT 2021 and Global Knowledge Research Foundation. As every one of us is passing through unforeseen circumstances due to COVID-19, we wish everyone and their families a safe time. Further, with immense happiness, I would like to share that we have received an overwhelming response this year from across 90 countries, where 1,150 papers were received and 350 papers were accepted, contributing to the success of this conference. And these very papers will be published in 4 volumes this year. We're thankful to all our guests present on this platform to join us digitally for the conference in these unpredictable times and make this conference more fruitful in terms of technical knowledge, and hope you will enjoy the 2 days of knowledgeful and interactive sessions. I'd like to welcome you to the technical session number 5 and introduce you to the chair for this session, Narendra Londe. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name. I just have a few words to say about the chair, just to get some background information. So Narendra is presently working as Associate Professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering of National Institute of Technology of Raipur, Chhattisgarh in India. He completed his BE from Amravati University in 2000, followed by MTech and PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee in the year 2006 and 2011 respectively. He has 14 years of rich experience of academics and research. He has published more than 120 articles in recognized journals, conferences, and books. His main areas of research include medical signal and image processing, biomedical instrumentation, speech signal processing, biometrics, intelligence healthcare, brain-computer interface, artificial intelligence, and pattern recognition. He has been awarded by organizations like Taiwan Society of Ultrasound and Medicine, Ultrasonic Society of India, and NIT Raipur. He is an active member of different recognized societies from his areas of research, including senior membership of IEEE. So that's just a little about Narendra. So now we'll look to get started, but unfortunately I don't believe that the first presenter is here yet. I will just double check that. Is anyone here in place of Marisha to present the model of business intelligence development by applying cooperative society-based financial technology? If not, then we will go on to Ruben, who I can see has joined the room. I'll give it a minute just to see if anyone messaged me to say that they wish to take the first presentation. If not, we will just have to move on to the second one, unfortunately. So I'll just give it 30 seconds or so just to see if anyone replies. If not, Ruben, I think you'll be next. Right. Okay, guys, we're gonna have to move on, unfortunately, to the second presentation, which is going to be by Ruben. And the paper title is "Do You Trust Me? Value and Governance in Data Sharing Business Models." So I will stop sharing my screen and hand over to you, Ruben, if you're ready.
Yes. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, cool. Good luck, mate.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for giving this chance to present here. So I'm Ruben. I'm here with my colleague Niels Walravens. I think he's also in the session. And what we've been looking at is on data sharing business models. So and how value and governance can be created in order to create trust and to ensure that data sharing can happen. So first I will give a bit of context of what data sharing is, and I will also explain what is the research question we looked at, what our approach was for looking into this, and then the results we came up with, and then finally the model that we came up with to identify how this interorganizational data sharing can happen. So I'll first start with the context. So the context is we mainly focus on interorganizational data sharing. So that means sharing data between companies, or between companies and governments, or governments between governments. So, and this is something that we believe was very relevant because by increasing the access to organizational data, which is very valuable for companies and for governments, this can increase a lot of benefits for them. For companies, this can ensure that they can get new insights. So, for example, if you look at the corona vaccine that has been developed, this has been done through data which has been shared by medicine, by different companies who actually were willing to share data, who opened this and actually also share this. So this can also help decision making, create new innovations, and create new business models which are driven around data. So for companies, this has a lot of benefits to do this. And this is also the same for governments. For governments, we've seen that these benefits are mainly around ensuring that they can do evidence-based policy making, so that they can base decisions that they are making. They can base it a lot on data, so that there is an evidence for the policies that they are making. And they also can improve their services, because if they know what the citizens want and what citizens need, then the services that can be created is also improved. And this can be done also if governments would share data among each other, or if they could have access to data of businesses. This can be improved. But we've also seen that there is a lot of challenges in this organizational data sharing. So for that, we looked into different literature to identify it. And Abraham, in 2019, he found that there are different challenges which were also relevant for what we looked into. So for companies, it can be a challenge for them to retain control over the data that they are sharing between companies, because they cannot know who a company that they share this data with who are they going to share this data. Maybe they will share it with a competitor of this company, or maybe this company will not know which adaptations they make to this data, which makes that it will not be so trustworthy anymore. So this control is something very important for companies. On the other hand, also, how do you collaborate if you're going to make sure that you do this cross-organizational data sharing? It gives a lot of uncertainties on how you collaborate, how the data is, for example, standardized so that the data can be qualitative, or how can the data be made interoperable so you can read the data. So this also creates a lot of questions on how these collaborations can be done. Then a third one, how is value created in these collaborations? So how can, if you share your data, how can you make sure that that you get value in return, that you actually can create like also a win for yourself on one hand, and on the other hand, how can you make sure that the data which you share is also valuable for the other organization? And then a fourth one, which is trust, which we've seen is very important. So how do you make sure that between these companies or between these governments, there is trust that the data is handled in a good way, or that the data goes to the companies that you want it to go, that it doesn't go to your competitors or to companies who you believe that might not be dealing this data in the right way. So these are all challenges that we've seen that actually partially can be answered with the lens of a business model, of looking in how the business model more on an ecosystem level or a network level on how they can be done. So therefore, the research question that we looked into in this paper was which factors determine data sharing business models. So what determines that data sharing can happen in a trustworthy way, in a way that it can create value, and that also this control can be ensured. So for that, we looked into 3 research disciplines. So we did the literature review, looking into factors in 3 different fields. So one of these fields is, of course, data sharing literature itself. And there, mainly the literature there covers mainly what factors are influencing the willingness to share data between organizations. So how willing are these companies to share this data? Then another field was data governance literature. So which looks mainly into which factors influence the quality and how the data can be governed between this organization or within an organization. And then the third research field was business models, but there we focused mainly on network level business models, not like, because you can look on business models on two distinct ways. You can look at it from looking at the business case of one company and what is how they can organize themselves, or you can look at it on how the whole value network is organized and who and how value can be created in this value network, and also who controls the value network. So the latter one is also the one that we focused on. So the methodology that we took was a systematic literature review, and we based ourselves on different keywords. So we looked into data governance, business model, data sharing, data exchange, interorganizational relationships, and data marketplace. And then we made a selection based on which papers had the most citations, and also which papers were mentioned in literature reviews. And later on, we also used the snowball sampling method, which means that when we've seen that in one of these literature reviews or in the citations, there are some papers which could be important, we also use them as a reference to investigate them further. And then we made an overview of all these papers. We looked into the factors which were the most important ones. And then we used these factors. We analyzed these factors based on two things. On one hand, if these factors were inter-organizational or intra-organizational, which means are these factors looking into how companies can collaborate, or do they look only on factors that are within one company or one organization, so intra-organizational. So that's one factor. The other factor was value versus control, which is also what the business model literature looks into. Do you create value in this value network, or do you control? Do you seek on how to control the value network, which we've seen also that was important. So we use these two to structure these factors. So if we look then into the results that we have, when we looked into the data sharing literature, we made always an overview of the different papers that we looked into. This is a small sample of the papers we looked into. And then we always looked into which factors were intra-organizational and which ones were inter-organizational. And that's the way how we mapped the different factors that we've seen that were important. So in the data sharing literature, we've seen that the factors were mainly inter-organizational, so looking between the relationship between companies, and they were both based on creating value and also on creating or ensuring that you have control. And the important insights we've seen there is that trust is very important. That came in many papers forward as something important, because you can see, like, if there is trust with the other company, if they're going to treat this data that you share with them in a trustworthy way. Are they going to do with it what they promised to do? And are they not going to use it in a way that is bad for your company? So trust is an important factor. The ownership of the data was important. So who is going to be in the end the owner? Are you going to remain the owner of this data, or is another party is going to be the owner of this data, or is somebody else the owner? So you cannot share data which you don't own. So that's something important. Then regarding to value, there was also two, which are on one hand benefit sharing. So if you share the data with a partner and they get benefits from it, so they can make revenue from it, it's important to bring this value back to the one who shared the data with them. So that's an important factor, and as well as the pricing, which is a very complicated one, because for pricing data, you also need to know what is the value of data, which depends a lot on many different things. It depends on how the data is processed on one hand, and on the other hand also on which application domain the data is used. So, so this pricing and the benefit sharing are important ones, which are quite challenging. Another one is provenance. So to which extent do you have control over the data, and to which extent do you have transparency over what happens with the data? So you want to be able that if somebody is using the data in a way, if maybe they want to share it with one of your competitors, you want to be able to have control over that, that you can stop, that they don't share this data with your competitor. And then the last,
We've just got 2 minutes left.
Ah, well, okay. Yeah, and then we have
Right.
a power structure. So I will speed up a bit. Then we have also looked into data governance. So that we look mainly into the quality of the data. So are there policies, are there standards, can the data be monitored? And what are the legalities for this data? So that was the data governance. And we also looked into business models literature, where we mainly have seen what is the value that is created, what are the revenue models, the cost models, the value network, and the value architecture which can be created. So we took these factors and we combined them into a data sharing business model framework, where we looked into 4 different axes. So one of them is value. So how is value created using this data? So on the other hand, we have data governance. So how is the quality of the data ensured? Ecosystem trust means how is the trust in the ecosystem? So this relates a lot to if shared data is, for example, shared with your competitors or not, or who is actually part of this ecosystem, who owns the data, who has ownership over the customers. And then the trustworthiness of the data is a lot about this provenance and if you can control this data and if there's also interoperability. So if there are different standards that can be used. So this is the model that we created. This is still an academic model, which was theory based. So now we are looking into how to apply this. So that's the further research. So the first way of using that is to use it as a research design model. So that's basically a way of creating topic guides to interview companies to ensure how are they willing to share this data. So this is a lot based on research. A second track that we are looking into is to measure the willingness to share data. So to which extent are companies willing or governments willing to share this data with another party? And then the third one we use is also as a way to build scenarios, to look into different business model scenarios to see in which type of constructions or constellations you can be sure that data sharing is going to be increased or maybe decreased. Where is it going to be higher or lower? So so this was our model. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. You can also reach us if you have additional questions you want to reach us. You can reach me or my colleague Niels on this contact details. So, but if you have questions, feel free to ask, and I'm happy to.
Right. Thank you, Ruben, for your presentation. This is Narendra Londe. It's really nice to hear about what that you have done, the literatures. You have found out the different factors, parameters, where on the basis of which you have developed your own model. Okay, as a data scientist, because I belong to a data science background, so I have one question that in order to measure your effectiveness of your this particular model, have you done any experiments?
Yes, now we are. That's what we are doing now. So if you look at this further research, we are applying this research now basically in case studies.
Case studies.
We worked on case studies with 2 different companies. So one of them is focused on retail, where data is shared to ensure that that governments can actually make better decisions for local economy. The other one is also based in mobility, where data is shared between organizations to improve the communication between companies. And what we've done there is we use it as a way as this research design model. So actually to look into topic guides on how this can actually ensure that we ask the right questions on one hand. And there we've seen that that we ask the right questions with this. And then second, we've also been able to do this third one, to build scenarios to know that which parameter. So there we take out 1 or 2 variables and then we see to create a business model in that. So in that
and
way,
how you are going to validate the performance of your model? I mean, any Anything has been decided on that?
Yeah, I think we are looking mainly into this case study analysis to make sure that there it can work if it's valuable and if it actually describes the right parameters, and to make sure that it can be validated that way.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ruben.
Yes, thank you.
Any question from the audience or the speakers, those who are already in the room? Okay. Thank you, Ruben.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. I request now Liam to please allow the next speaker, please.
Yeah, thanks, Narendra, as well. Next up, we have Francis Ditto presenting Feminism, Information Access for Low Resource Environments. Are you there, Francis? I did see that you were in the you're in the call. Oh, I'll just ask you.
Yeah, he's here, I think. Francis, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, hello. Yeah.
Unmute.
Sorry,
yeah,
I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Francis.
So
please share your screen and you can
much.
start your presentation.
Okay, I'll do that and dive right in. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to apologize to the team for a little issue that I had to do with my title, to Bangsum. Now, it had to be written as an N, but the actual alphabet is an Ang. But ironically, this is an aspect of the issue that this research is looking into. And this was the fact that a local word in one of our languages in Ghana could not be represented online, and so had to be changed at a certain point. But the research is looking at information access for low resource environments. My name is Francis Ditto. I'm in Ghana, Tamale, Ghana, with the University for Development primary.
I don't know about anyone else, but you've cut out for me.
Of the Free University in Amsterdam, and also part of my research team and my supervisors as well in my PhD, which I am currently wrapping up. And Andre Bat is an ICT entrepreneur who helped develop an aspect of the work that I'm doing called Casadaka. I also worked with the Internet Society, the Ghana chapter, and then the Savannah Agriculture Research Institute in helping to do this research. Now, the issue is that information, we all know, is very vital for development. And one of the biggest issues that we have is that in places like Ghana is that we have a very big problem with information getting to certain parts of our country. We all know that there is still a big digital divide. And ironically, when you come into a country like Ghana, there is even another digital divide between certain areas, especially north and south. And so we have very wide areas where people don't have access to information, which, as I've said, is very vital for development. Now, the reasons for this, we've come to find out, and I will go into how these issues were found out, but we've come to find out that the main issues are infrastructure. In the research area for this project was the Savannah region in the north of Ghana. And here, infrastructure is far lower than it is in the south of Ghana. Affordability is an issue because the people are not so well to do, and the services for getting information can be quite expensive. literacy is probably one of the biggest issues. So if we were to provide the infrastructure and even provide the resources, a lot of these people in the rural areas and these areas of Ghana cannot read and cannot write. Cannot read and cannot write English especially, and it means that there is still a problem of literacy. And then we find out that relevant information is an issue where information can be gotten to the communities, but if it's not relevant to their livelihood, then they are simply not interested, and at the end of the day, they do not utilize whatever technology brings that information. So our research team uses this methodology, which you can find in the references. The idea is that we need to have an in-depth understanding of these issues before we come up with a solution. Beforehand, the problem is that there have been a lot of interventions and things thrown at these people. And as someone who comes from that region, I can testify that majority of these interventions have not worked because there hasn't been a real in-depth understanding of the problem on the ground. And through that, we find a way of iterating and eliciting the needs that the people have. During my research, the amazing thing we found out is that these people actually know what they need. It's amazing to find out that the minute you describe what you can do, they immediately tell you that then you can use it to do this for us, and they know exactly what they need. And in doing that, we come up with a use case that meets those particular requirements. And this is one of those use cases. There were quite a number of them. And of course, there is accessing sustainability, and then engineering, deploying, and evaluating the system. And all this is an iterative thing so that we can redefine the process and the technology to suit the people. So basically building the technologies with the people. So for Think to Bank, what happened was at the end of the day, we realized that we need to have an interactive voice response. We need local languages because these people do not speak English, meaning that we need to use voice-based technologies. We needed regular information updates because it was clear that if information is not updated regularly, then people lose interest. We came up with a short-range radio transmission of information, which I'll go explain a few minutes later, and then monitoring of the system. The system too should have uninterrupted power supply if possible, and then could also have a subscription-based system, and then could have a wider range of radio transmission. Now, the system worked this way. The hardware used is a Raspberry Pi, which is installed with a dongle that receives phone calls from the host. Now, the Savannah Agricultural Research Institute was the host for this particular project. They are an organization that already provides information for rural areas. And so this is a step in helping them do their work a little bit easier. And so they provided, they served as the hosts. Now they call into the system, and it enables them to leave a recorded message. So they record a message, let's say in a particular local language. Sorry, just to mention, these devices are hosted in the communities. So the device itself is hosted within the community. And so the calls come in through over GSM. And then the message that is recorded on the device is then transmitted over radio frequency, which is transmitted to the community over a short range. The Raspberry Pi is already equipped with a radio transmitter, so this enabled us to just transmit. And the community members simply tune in their radio sets to the frequency which we are transmitting on, and they can hear the information being sent to them. It was interesting to note that during the deployment, I personally expected radio sets to come out and people start tuning, But funny enough, they all brought out their mobile phones and then used the radio tuners on their mobile phones, which was very interesting as well. Then, of course, there had to be an evaluation. So we had an evaluation of the system using the system usability score. This is a somewhat easy but good way of evaluating systems, ICT systems, to find out their usability based on learnability and the usability from the end users after they have evaluated the system themselves. And so we evaluated from 106 respondents. That is from a total of about 1,000 people who were users of the system. The system was deployed in 5 communities in the Savannah region, and so a total of about 1,000 people. From that, 106 participants answered the usability score and had a score of 80.52, which is considered acceptable, and the learnability of 71.93, which indicates that the users feel that this is a system that they can use. It feels like that this is a system that is easily learnable and easily usable. Now, what did we learn, or what have I learned over the course of doing this work? The fact that it's, first of all, infrastructure. We learned that we should use available technologies as opposed to throwing new technologies at communities. Over the years, there have been so many technologies, and yet people have not been able to utilize them. But there are available technologies like FM and mobile telephony, which is over 100% penetration in a country like Ghana. And so we based on these technologies. Affordability is very important. We have to use low-cost solutions because the huge solutions sometimes do not pan out because they cannot be sustained. Literacy is perhaps one of the biggest issues. And so we leverage on voice-based technologies in local languages as opposed to text. And then relevant information is very important. So most of the information being sent to these communities come from the Research Institute, which already provides them with information that is relevant to their communities and very community specific. And all these ideas came out of the fact that there was collaboration as opposed to intervention. So we collaborate with the end users, we speak to them. Over time, we find out exactly what their needs are. We show them what technologies are available and what we can do from our side as ICT experts. And they tell us what they need and what is the best way of going about it. And together we collaborate and come up with a solution. And we believe that this is the best way. So Tibangsum worked out very well, and Internet Society is actually ready to further work on this to make it a bit wider. COVID came in between to stop us a little bit, but we will continue working on it, where we intend to increase the range, add solar panels to provide power to the devices, and work also importantly work on a sustainable system which will keep the project running on its own together with the Research Institute. So basically this was Tibangsum to basically provide information access for low resource communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. First of all, congratulations for developing this technology for the rural communities. That too, you have done an experimentation in areas like Ghana, where the resources are truly very low, and it is difficult to approach. So first of all, thank you. And I have one question here. Though you have said that it has been deployed in 5 rural communities, and it is almost reaching to now 1,000 people. Have you means like whatever the usability analysis that you have done? Okay, So have you, is there any, means whenever we apply any technology, there used to be a standards for to be followed for doing the usability analysis. Is there any such standard is there, or have you followed it, something?
Yes, I believe you mean standards in the usability test itself.
Yes.
Yes, surely. Well, I didn't have time to go into the test. It's a bit more probably complicated to do, as I said. One of the issues I can point out specifically is that, again, this test is in English. And so I had to do a bit of reading to come up with the best way of translating and not losing the translation of the specific points from the test. They are 10 questions which are asked based on the user's opinion of the system that they're using. But these questions are formulated in English, and these users do not speak English. So one of the things that we had to do was create a translation that is still very relevant and very appropriate to give us the right response. And then afterwards, we have to do a bit of calculation to come up with which is not in this presentation and the paper, but we have to do some calculation with the SUS to come up with the end result.
Okay, thank you so much. Congratulations again.
Yeah,
Thank you, Francis.
I request Liam now, please go to the next speaker, please.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Naisi Hua. Sorry if I've said that wrong. Presenting Chinese social media, Weibo, as a tool to advance participatory management pandemic. I'll just give you time to join. All right, I'm just going to request that you unmute.
Yeah, okay, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, that's fine. Just good.
Okay,
Yep, there you go.
thank
Yeah,
you for okay, and thank you for Chairman for the introduction, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Naisi Hua from Harbin Institute of Technology, and it's a pleasure for me to be here and an honor to present our research about Chinese social media, especially the Weibo, as a tool to advance participatory management. And to begin with, I would like to start by briefly reviewing the current situation about historical urban landscape and usage of social media in China. Since 2005, promoted by the UNESCO, HUI has become a sustainable and historic approach to cultural heritage management. Since then, the community engagement as one of the 4 tools of HUL approach gains increasing attention in the international heritage innovation field. It also stands out as a bottom-up expression of social value and social choice in China. You can see a series of practices followed were conducted during this period. And after social media developed rapidly, it offers a platform to involve more stakeholders, such as the grassroots and experts with distance, to take part in the cultural heritage conservation process. However, majority of researches on this topic is Western-based, which lack the attention to Chinese social media. Thus, there is an urgent need to develop social media involved cultural heritage studies, and which is quite in the Chinese rapid urbanization context. And Weibo is one of the most widely used social media in China, which is quite familiar with the Twitter, the Flickr, or the Facebook. And right now it's becoming a significant platform of online community engagement. And the purpose of our study is to collect data from the beginning of 2020, when the COVID-19 went from outbreak to stabilization in China, to propose an assessment framework to analyze the user's post information, such as geolocation, text, and images on the Weibo. And we also attempt to gain a deeper understanding of the online community engagement degrees of China. So we will now come to the second topic about the method we use in this article, and the brief roadmap can be demonstrated from the 4 steps. And first of all, the targeted heritage objects are obtained from the WHL, and following that, a series of data is extracted from Weibo by advanced searching, and afterwards, a self-exam process is carried out to weed out the duplicated posts, and active purification is supplemented to acquire the database. And the final step is the analysis and visualization of the filtered posts in terms of the geolocation, text, and the images. And as you may know, China ranked the first place in the WHL by owning 55 World Heritage properties. So in terms of focusing more on urban heritage, we set up a filter and with the location in the area with a certain number of residents to ensure the sufficiency of the data volume and the diversity of the samples. So as a result, the 5 cases are listed to maintain the requirements. They are the Old Town Wulijiang, the ancient city of Pingyao, the classical Suzhou, the historic center of Macau, and Kulangsu in Xiamen. So then there comes to the data acquisition, and firstly, a series of keywords which should contain both the geographical information and the cultural heritage attribution were defined. The 3 keywords were combined to each other to searching for the posts. And when it comes to the site selection, unlike most of other social medias, the Weibo composes of 3 original websites. Among this, the Weibo CN is considered to have a broad range of posters, documentation, and user statistics. And the study tests and obtains the API interface and associated interface parameters from the Chrome browser, and using Python as a programming language and using cookies to simulate browser access. And the diagram on this slide shows how data selection was conducted. The 3 did in the selection process on programming and by manual filtering to purify the acquired posts. Now, firstly, 100 duplicated posts were with the initial field content, and the same poster are excluded automatically by the programming. And then according to the attribution to the posters, 336 posts from local are picked out. And then the retained posts are normalized manually based on the contents. The posts which are weighted as a record of daily activities, report on the restoration project, and collective memory, and advertisement are screened out. Then both the text and pictures of the rest 119 posts were considered to have a strong association with participatory management and could be used for the further. And the posts were analyzed in 3 aspects: the general data, text, and images. The general data is recounted and analyzed for various attributes. And the texts are manually divided according to the aim of the contents into 40 groups, which are adapted to a framework with 5 degrees of public participation. They are inform, collaborate, and empower. This degree was taken from the IP2 spectrum of public participation to give a systematic description of how public participation happens on social media in Chinese context. And the following chart illustrates a clear upward trend in the number of Weibo posts over the past 10 months. And due to the strict lockdown policy facing the pandemic of COVID-19, the data keeps at a low level in the first half of the year. Following a small peak in June, the total number of posts shrank noticeably from 82 to 68 in July. It's corresponding with a short relaxing period with a loosened restriction of intra-urban traffic movement. And the number increases dramatically in the following period, along with the opening of regional boundaries. By the end of October, the number of posts reached almost 5 times in July and 20 times in January. Up to now, people still are allowed to commute freely between different destinations with a personal health code. And in evaluating the participatory degrees according to the text, we examined the tests into 5 participatory levels, and it is cheerful to have some findings in the involving and collaborating level. Although the proportion of evolving and collaborating takes only 6% of the total, it has a significant meaning as a double-way communication. And 9% users remain in the one-way communicative level, which is the most fundamental degrees of this assessment framework. And we had to admit that both have been found to represent the empowering level, and we consider reasons could be the remaining reliance on paper document or the exclusive operation environment to older people and a top-down process of engagement of China. And when reading and mapping of the pictures, the abstracted information from images reflected the public's focus and interest in the urban heritage set. It is apparent from this table that the local participants are most interested in architectural detail, and the attention on buildings and streets is preceded only by the architectural detail with nearly half numbers of pictures, and the other special elements in the same range of concern. It seems that physical spaces and elements close to the human body in scale are more popular. So, in conclusion, I would like to point out the following aspects, and the results conducted a number may largely associated with the financial situation of the city, and besides, the general trend of posting activities is tightly regulations mean against the COVID-19 pandemic. And knowing from personal social media posts, the participatory level in the World Cultural Heritage site in China is near informing and consulting, and the focuses of the citizens are mainly on human-friendly elements, such as the details of built environment. And although the public participation towards heritage management in China is still in the early stage, the status quo still reflects a bright future to improve due to the popularization of ICT. And we sincerely hope that all this research leads a new perspective to heritage professionals and researchers to further the understanding of the cultural diversity and public participation in the decision-making process of the heritage management process. And that's all of my presentation, and thank you for your attention. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Nazi. Thank you for your nice presentation. Yeah, indeed, it is a good thing, or that is a good thought to involve the public itself to do the management of the things being used by the public. Okay. Likewise, there are many already there are such applications like waste management is being actually being done with the help of the public itself. On the same line, I really like this idea that to do the heritage management as well, involving the public itself. Okay. I have a little suggestion with you this work. Why? Because as you are taking the information from the different data types like text, then images you have taken, right? So yeah, you can think of developing the knowledge graphs. Do you know knowledge graphs? Yeah. So if you, because see, when the data types are of different data types are there, then it is difficult to correlate the information. So it is better that you develop something which is which can equalize or which can give the necessary I mean, whatever the information gained from that, it can be placed in one place at one particular location. That can be a knowledge graph. Okay, that is just a suggestion. You can think about it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I have one thing related because see, there are when you people are when we need to acquire the information from the images, okay, or from the text. So you have to use some automated technologies of like image segmentation, maybe. So what technologies you have used for extracting the information from the text and images? If you are able to just list few of them.
Actually, for the data acquisition, as I just informed, we use Python as a programming language and using cookies to simulate browser access, and then the request and sent via the Python request library. Then the return data further parsed by the Python libraries like the beautiful soap and regular expressions. And after the images are collected, we actually filtered by manual, and we follow the informations of the images and to find out which points the people pay attention to when they're taking the photographs.
All right. Okay. That's good. You can think about even putting up the raw data to the deep learning and then developing the knowledge graph, and it will be easy because knowledge graph will also be that will be something where you can put up the query and you can anybody can acquire that information further also. So
Yeah.
thank you once again, Nazi. It's an I'm really happy to see your this ICT based application, and thank you once again. Liam, maybe we can put the next speaker on in the.
Yeah. So now Silma is going to present a feasibility study towards e-processing supply chain management transactions in South African municipalities. So I will just invite. Oh yeah, there you are. Feel free to start whenever. I can't hear you yet. I can see your screen.
Selma, we can't hear you. Please switch on your mic.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I hope you should work now. Still can't hear anything.
He is unmute as well, but the voice is not reaching to us, I think.
Yeah, it says that she's unmuted.
Please drop a message in the text box.
Yeah, I did. I just messaged her, but I'm not quite sure what's happened, Silma. Perhaps if you mute yourself and unmute yourself and maybe fiddle around with your laptop to see if you can just turn the volume up on your computer. I've just requested to unmute. Yeah, Silma, we still can't hear anything. I don't really know.
Let me just unmute him. So when you will be doing it, unmute.
Silma, perhaps fiddle around with your laptop to see if maybe you've muted your microphone accidentally. Silma, what we'll do is we'll give you another minute or so just to try work it out, but then if not, we'll have to move on and come back to you.
Yes, I think that we can do that.
Yeah, I just got a message from Silma saying I have unmuted, but we are having a very heavy storm. So Silma, what we'll do is we'll move on just to the next presentation to allow you to hopefully sort it out, if that's okay.
Please, Liam, let's go to the next, please.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that, Silma. We will get back to you. Right, so next up, oh, I don't think they've actually joined. So for our final presentation, we are looking to have the behaviour patterns of the Yogyakarta Special Region government official in reaching to e-government transformation, which is to be presented by Mohammed Saifuddin. Probably said that wrong, but it doesn't appear that Mohammed has joined the call, in which case, is there anyone who is here to present in place of Mohammed? If so, could they just drop a message or just unmute themselves? And on the same note, if anyone is here to replace Marisha for the model of business intelligence development, they could let us know. I'll just give it a few seconds to see if anyone replies, but if not, then we'll have to go back to Silma.
I think he's also not here.
No, right, okay, so so it looks like Marisha has not been, we haven't been able to contact or Mohammed, so those two don't look like they'll be presenting, so our only option is to go back to Silma and hope that oh, someone's just entered the chat. Our only option is going back to Silma in the hope that
Right, go back to the Silma and ask him if he can.
Yeah, Silma, if you try connect again, hopefully it will work. I'll just invite you to unmute. I've just requested you unmute, Silma.
Okay. Is this better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you are audible now. Now you are audible. Please start your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, all good.
Thank you very much for your patience, and good morning, afternoon and evening to all the participants. It is a privilege for me to be able to share a feasibility study towards e-processing of supply chain management transactions in South African municipalities. My co-author, Rousseau van Solms from the Nelson Mandela University, has apologized as he's not available today. The purpose of this paper is to investigate the feasibility of enabling e-processing of supply chain management transactions in South African municipalities. We started the assessment with a literature review, which included the Municipal Finance Management Act, which governs all municipalities in the country, the Municipal Supply Chain Management Regulations, Municipal Finance Management Act circulars, which in South Africa is practice notes for practitioners in municipalities, and then academic publications. We only consulted academic publications that are directly related to the research. So the topic should have covered supply chain management, e-processing, and municipalities in South Africa. And then we further conducted collection of primary data from financial IT system vendors and a selection of municipalities. This was done through circulating questionnaires and also interviews with some of the IT system vendors and some of the municipalities. The research sample included, we approached the 11 vendors in the country. These 11 vendors of IT systems serve all 257 municipalities across the country. And each of them then proposed specific municipalities that we can approach that are of their clients. Only 10 of the system vendors responded to the request to participate. They proposed 32 municipalities between the 10 of them, and of these, only 16 selected to participate. In terms of the sample, our municipalities are divided into 3 groups in South Africa. The first being Group A, which are metropolitan municipalities and represent the 8 large cities in the country. Then we've got local municipalities, which represent the smaller cities in the country. There are 205 border-to-border local municipalities, of which 12 participated. And then we've got what we call district municipalities, which govern the local municipalities. And there are 44 of them, of which only 2 participated. This is not a representative sample for scientific research. However, from the knowledge and the Auditor General reports, which you will see a bit later on in another slide, I do not believe that if we had a larger sample, the findings would have differed, and therefore we decided to accept the sample as is. Now, key findings from this research: supply chain management functionality. First of all, the vendors responded that one vendor said that they do not include supply chain management functionality specifically for e-processing, and 4 said that it is an additional purpose over and above the financial system that they provide. All the other 5 vendors do provide the functionality. However, if we look at the responses of the municipalities, 2 indicated that this functionality is not provided, and 1 indicated they had to additionally purchase the functionality to be able to use it. Then the functionality to do costing and pricing analysis. 3 of the vendors provide the functionality, and sorry, that's a typo, but 13, it should have been 10, offer custom developments to add to or provide this costing and pricing analysis. All the municipalities indicated that they do not use this functionality. Then in terms of procurement planning, all vendors provide the functionality for procurement planning. Procurement planning means that once you've compiled your annual budget, you plan when and where in the annual budget cycle you will actually perform the procurement for the expenditure that you've planned. 8 municipalities indicated that they do not use the functionality. 5 indicated that they only use some of the municipality, and 2 indicated that they do not use it at all. Well, they did not respond to the questions, they just left it blank. In terms of enabling preferential procurement in South Africa means that designated groups are targeted for government procurement. It, for example, includes women, disabled people, and marginalized groups. All the vendors provide functionality to enable preferential procurement. 9 of the municipalities said that it's not available. 2 said that it is a core function of their systems, and then 3 did not answer the question. And 2 did not said that it's a custom development. E-processing capabilities. Most of the vendors said that all of the capabilities that we tested was available, but 9 of the municipalities said that it is not. 1 left it blank, and 6 indicated that they do not use it. In terms of logistics and inventory management, 8 of the vendors indicated that it is available, and 2 indicated that it is selectively available, but municipalities confirmed that even though it is available, they do not use the functionality. And then contract management, all the vendors provide functionality to enable contract management. 7 did confirm that it is available. However, 5 stated that they do not use the functionality, and 4 just left all the questions blank. Now, some of the key findings is the e-tender portal, where tenders are supposed to be published and the award of tenders are also supposed to be published, has been available since the 1st of July 2015. 7 municipalities use this functionality from time to time, and the other 9 indicated that they do not use the functionality at all. South Africa has a central supplier database for all of government, all spheres of government, which is national, provincial, and local. It's been available since the 1st of April 2016. 9 municipalities reported that they do not use it or that the functionality is not available, and the other 7 municipalities did not respond to the questions. Legislative, regulatory, and policy compliance is enabled through all the vendors' functionality. However, most of the municipalities do not use the functionality. This is supported by the findings of the Auditor General of South Africa, who in the 2018-19 General Report on the municipalities in the country only found of the sample municipalities 1 municipality with an unqualified report without findings. And very distressing, the AG found that there's continued adverse audit findings, specifically in terms of supply chain management in municipalities, and then that there has been a general regression in the audit outcomes of municipalities over the past 5 years. This supports some of the findings as explained above, and also the fact that municipalities do not use the functionality that is available, and municipalities to a large extent are not aware of the functionality that is available to enable them to do e-processing of supply chain management in the country. So the proposed implementation models for from this feasibility study was, first of all, what we call a regulatory model. Now, normally when there are new regulations or there are new requirements published in South Africa, the National Treasury will regulate the model or the requirements and then enforce these across the municipalities. But as can be seen from the e-tender portal and the use of the central supplier database, that is not working very effectively in South Africa, and therefore it is not the recommended model going forward. Then we also considered a people-focused model, and I noted the speaker from Ghana, where Francis said one of the problems is continued interventions and not cooperation. We experienced the same problem, where we have done extensive development and training and capacity building across the municipalities. In fact, minimum competency is also regulated in South Africa for government officials. However, the government officials do not comply with the minimum competency, and even if we embark on extensive skills development and training, it does not seem to have any effect on the use of supply chain management functionality. We considered a centralized processing model where all procurement is centrally processed on behalf of the 257 municipalities. However, we have specific capacity issues. The first being that, particularly in the rural areas, there's a major problem in terms of infrastructure. So not everybody has connectivity to internet. And our power in South Africa is very unreliable. We actually have long periods of time that there's no power available. So it would not be feasible because we will not be able to accept or receive information or data from rural areas or transmit it there. And then also a large portion of our rural communities do not have access to suitable technology. We also have a problem in terms of languages, where we've got 11 different languages. However, English is our formal business language in South Africa, and a large portion of our population, in particularly the rural areas, really battle with English as the business language. And then the IT system vendor-driven model, where the IT system vendors actually make the functionality available and then try and get their customers to use it, which clearly is not working because all of the IT system vendors do provide the functionality, but it is not broadly used. We then looked at a comprehensive system-based approach where we combine elements from the above models. We look at technology, we look at training, we look at enabling the system, functionality as a phased approach, and we've decided that this is probably where we have a comprehensive system-based approach, which is a model we developed ourselves, is probably the best way to do.
Sorry to interrupt, you've got 2 minutes left, sorry.
Yeah. In conclusion, the recommendations from this research are that we should continue regulating, for example, circulars and practice notes, because in that way we can enforce consequence management across government to municipalities that do not comply. The regulation of minimum IT specifications, processes and procedures, and that project has already kicked off for government. We need to embark on extensive skills development and capacity building interventions, cooperating with government officials instead of just dropping solutions and expecting them to be able to do it and doing interventions. We need to have a phased approach. We have to consider the municipality's capacity and their financial position before we enforce the use of technology for supply chain management. We have to closely cooperate with the financial IT system vendors, but also with line departments to which the municipalities report so that we can get them to use the functionality. And then very important, we also found that we have to partner with local economic development agencies, NGOs and training organizations, not only to build capacity within the municipalities where the transactions are processed, but also with potential vendors so that we can include all the vendors irrespective of their capabilities and their language and technology preferences. Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate the time that you spent with me.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Silma, for your wonderful talk. It is really a good effort to see that which is happening again in South Africa, the similar thing that has been Francis also has told. The thing is that it is really a good attempt to do a supply management uninterruptedly between the municipalities that you are doing. The thing is that what I want to know that whatever the infrastructure that you are using for doing all this supply maintaining, developing the supply management system, by what method you have told just in your earlier slide, that infrastructure also need to be means optimized, means so that it can give you the minimum means more benefits with the minimum efforts. So do you have any is there any consideration while while designing this system? Have you considered that?
Sorry, I didn't catch the gist of your question.
What I'm saying that you have said that it is supported by regulating the minimum IT system specifications, isn't it?
Yes. So what we do is there are 11 system vendors in 257 municipalities. They use different software solutions. For example, Oracle, SAP. So what we do is regulate the specifications and the processes and say your system has to cater for all of this functionality. These are the process descriptions and these are the operating procedures. They then go and develop the software and they roll it out to the respective customers.
Okay.
When I refer to an infrastructure, we do not have internet connectivity to rural areas, and we also do not have power supply to all of our rural areas. We do not have telephone lines to all our rural areas, which makes it difficult to roll out electronic functionality because they will not be able to participate in e-processing without the required infrastructure.
Right. Any means rewarding system is there to the municipalities, those who are contributing in a better way or those who are contributing regularly? in that hybrid system, because many municipalities are linked, but it may possible that one municipality may contribute more than others. So is there any system to monitor that or to reward that particular municipality?
Municipalities are monitored through the line departments which I mentioned, which are our provincial treasuries and our COPTA departments, which is cooperative governance and traditional affairs. So they monitor the performance at municipalities, and then municipalities also have to complete performance reports and have got the individual employees have got performance delivery contracts and scorecards. Now, unfortunately, our government sector is highly unionized, so you cannot touch individuals, performance or their monetary compensation. You cannot touch that in South Africa. But how we do enforce consequences and how we do regulate is most municipalities are dependent on subsidies from central government, and they are also dependent on grants from central government. And if they do not comply or they have negative audit findings, like I mentioned, the regressing audit findings, then their grant funding is terminated or it's withheld. However, we find that most of the municipalities that suffer this consequence are the smaller rural municipalities that don't have capacity to render services to the community if they do not access their centralized funding. And the bigger city municipalities have got no problem at all because they can continue financially without grants and subsidies. So we are actually penalizing the communities if we enforce consequences and not the officials that are not complying.
Thank you, Selma, for this nice presentation. Thank you once again, and congratulations for such a fantastic work. Please, Liam, can we put on the next speaker if they are available?
Oh, yeah. So that was the last one. So if Mohammed is not here for the behavior patterns of the Yogyakarta Special Region Government, official in reaching to e-government transformation, or Marisha, who is meant to present a model of business intelligent development by applying cooperative society-based financial technology. If they don't reply in the next couple of minutes, I'll just have to make a few closing remarks and then end the session. So I'll leave. We'll just wait a minute just in case anyone does reply, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
Okay, Liam, thank you. All the I think those two are not now come. Is there any chance?
No, they're not.
Okay. So
right, okay. I think I'm gonna quickly make the closing remarks. So I'll just quickly turn on.
Sure.
Right. So I'm just going to say a few words, basically, guys, and I'll briefly get you to turn your cameras on in a minute, just so I can get a photo. So I sincerely thank our authors for their excellent presentation and contribution in this session, and all our participants for being a part of the International Congress. I hope this session was informative and knowledgeable. All the presenters will be getting their digital certificates through the mail within 2 working days. Further, all the papers have already been forwarded to the Springer. Publication will be live within 4 to 6 months. Also thank our session chair, who we do have a certificate for. So we'd just like to thank you, Narendra, for chairing the session. And this is just a token of our appreciation to the chair on behalf of the team at ICICT 2021 and Global Knowledge Research Foundation. Thank you for
thank you, Liam, and thank you, participants, all the participants, for becoming a part of this extravaganza ICICT, which has having more than 9 participants from more than 90 countries. So thank you once again for inviting me here. Liam, thank you. Looking forward to meet you again.
Yes,
thank you, all the participants.
Just a second. But before we go, guys, could everyone just quickly turn on the cameras very briefly, just so I can take a screenshot, because it's likely to go on the website.
Okay. Francis?
Oh, very nice. I'll just wait one more second. Hopefully, oh, blimey, we've almost got a full house. Usually most people don't turn those on. Right. Okay. I think that'll do. Right. Thanks a lot, guys. I hope you had a. I hope it was. Thank you. Cheers, guys.